This album I was very excited for because Aperture came out, and when you put out like a 5 minute long dance music inspired song as the lead single for like, biggest male pop star that we have probably right now, that tells me I'm going to do something weird with this album. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm hyped for this. I feel like I had to deal with my own expectations of this album quite a
Yeah,
bit when listening to it
I
because
agree.
Aperture was easily the most dancey song on the album.
Yep.
If there are other influences here aesthetically and sonically, it is from indie rock, I think.
Okay, I'm so glad you said that.
Okay, so we talked about his performance of Aperture at the BAFTAs, right?
Right.
He was wearing this long tie, baggy suit, and you were like, I thought this was supposed to be like a dance album, and I'm not really getting that from that styling.
Right.
It all makes sense, right? Because he's doing David Byrne, he's doing Talking Heads.
Interesting. Okay.
Instead of being a dance forward album, which is what, even the name of the album implied, this was a
Yes,
much more indie rock influenced album, which
I agree.
I don't hate. I also like indie rock, but expectation wise, I was like, strange that you would choose Aperture as your lead single, but okay. I left this feeling like Harry Styles is somebody who has good taste, and he like clearly likes cool bands and can replicate the sounds of those bands and those artists, but he's really doing it as like pastiche and not putting a lot of himself into it. And that's kind of where I came away from this album feeling.
I had a very similar thoughts. I was really excited for this album because I think we both agreed that Aperture was a strong opener, and we were curious to see more because it was a little genre bendy. I love the gospel influence of this song at the end. There was like definitely like an electronica influence to the music, so I was excited about that. I do think that the content of this album overall like belies the title. I don't think that there is a ton of disco influence. I wrote down the following band names several times while I was listening.
Okay.
I wrote down Phoenix.
Yeah, Phoenix. There is a Phoenix song on here.
I wrote down Vampire Weekend and Ezra Koenig.
Let's talk about how Harry Styles is literally ripping off Ezra Koenig on this album.
And I also wrote down Gorillaz.
Couple other names I want to drop in the chat
Please,
here. Lots
drop
of
them
Tame
in.
Impala vibes. I also think like a little bit of MGMT, like early and
Yeah.
mid-career MGMT with some of the kind of like vaguely electro-inspired indie rock.
Yeah.
And also, of course, LCD Sound System, which was on Aperture and it continues to be on the rest of the album, I think, as well.
I felt like this album sounded to me like it could have come out while we were in college, like 2010, 2011. I would have been like, oh yeah,